Hello, I'm Sönna of SunDaughter Knits, and in this little video I am going to talk about how to carry yarn up the side of a knitting project when not in use, and why we would do that. Why we would do that is pretty simple. We don't like sewing. If we were to cut the yarn and weave in ends, there would be 2 ends for every color change. I'm looking at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Oh, well, nope, 18, 20. It's a lot. Don't want to do it. And so I can carry this blue strand up the side of my project here, or just tucked in behind the back of my project here, and not have to worry about sewing in those ends. So I do want to talk about very quickly before I do that how important it is to maintain a stretchy edge. I have a blog post, it's called How to Alternate Skeins and Achieve a Stretchy Edge. Another YouTube video called How to Alternate Hand-Dyed Yarn When Knitting and Maintain a Stretchy Edge. I will do my best to get techie and see if I can make them link into this video. I don't know if I can do it. I'll try. I can at least put links in the description. But it's super duper important that we pay attention to how tight that unused strand of yarn is being carried up the edge. And I'm just going to show this little baby shawl as a quick demo of why. This time I have a ruler. I think when I made the video my kids had taken off with the ruler. I used scissors. But if I measure here, I'm looking at, from my center spine, I'm looking at about 13 centimeters. But if I come over to this side from my center spine, I'm looking at, once I sew in that end, 10.5 centimeters. That's a pretty significant difference. And it's because I did not maintain a stretchy edge. There's a very simple technique. It involves a yarn over, which is subsequently dropped in the following row to help do that. And I explain it in those videos. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use that technique here, but I'm not gonna talk much about it beyond that little bit I just said. So let me pull out this DK Beckley here. This is the DK Beckley. Here, you get out of the way, little swatch. In this shawl, I definitely made use of this technique, and it minimizes how much the unused strand shows up. If we look at the wrong side, you can see where I carried that unused strand up, and I locked it. That's the word I use. I locked it down. You can imagine if I had just stretched this, that would be this big long stretch of pink here, and it would snag on something. It would never work well. So, and then same thing here. From the right side, it does not show very much. And so this technique really works. There is the same basic technique with a few modifications, 3 modifications that I can think of off the top of my head. And I will show you all of them and explain when we would use each one. But first, let's talk about what we're doing when we lock a stitch down. Some people talk about twisting. Do you see the twist? Here's a twist, like that. From the wrong side, without losing my stitch, I knit around that strand. I'm gonna do it this way though, and do it one more time. Let's pretend, let's undo it. Okay, so here's my blue hanging out down here from that last row where I worked it. Now, you can think of it like a twist, doop. Or you can think of it like taking your working yarn and wrapping it around the blue strand. Let me do it one more time. We can think of it like a twist, ba-doop. And look, when I twist, the strand I am working with twists over the top of the strand I am locking. I am not twisting this way. I am twisting this way, and there's a reason for that that we'll talk about in a moment. And so it's been locked twice. Well, there's no need to lock it twice if we're just carrying it up the edge, but I am doing this to show you the twist. Okay, let's take that back out. Okay, so I took that out so we could talk about when we would want to use these various versions of this locking technique I'm showing you here. So we want to make sure that the color we worked last is hanging to the front. Do you see? That way when we do our twist or our lock, it's going over the top. Now, there are three different ways or places we would do this lock depending on what we're looking for. The very easiest for most people is right up the very side. Right on that first stitch, I'm going to go in like I'm going to knit, I'm going to do my little twist, and then I'm going to knit my stitch. Knit a couple stitches and then we'll take a look at it. There it is. Now, this method, do you see how it's popping through there? Allows for a little more pop through. It's also going to carry right up the side. I used that right here. And you can see it barely from the side here. So if you lock it or twist it with the first stitch, then you may have some peeking. However, if you are going to put an I-cord edging on it, it doesn't matter. So go ahead and do that. If the colors are close, it may not matter. The other way we would do that, the other method of doing that, is to actually lock it 1 or 2 stitches in. Okay, I took it out so I can show you again. So the other place, I should say, that we can lock it, another place we can lock it is 1 or 2 stitches in. The reason we would do that is to keep it more to the back of our work. This was carried 1 stitch in here. From the front, it doesn't show so much. This one was carried up the side. Let me try and put it flat. There we go. From the front, you can see it peeking there. Carried up the side, locked 1 stitch in. So let me show you how I do that. 1 or 2 stitches in. I will alternate sometimes between 1 and 2 stitches. I knit my first stitch or purl it, whatever. I work my first stitch. I go in the second, and now bringing the color the strand I'm using now over the top, I come around the strand I am locking and work my second stitch. There we go. Now let me get to the other side and come back. Okay, so here I am. I'm going to do it one more time, 1 stitch in. I'm going to work my next stitch here. I'm going to take the strand I'm working with and take it over the top. So I'm doing a twist so that it comes over the top of the blue color. I want to make sure that's really clear. And then working the next stitch. Now it will peep through occasionally. That's why I use the word minimize. But in general, it's going to be carried up just barely inside. From the wrong side, you'll be able to see it if it's a big contrast, but from the right side, it will be much less likely to show. The other adaptation to this is most useful when using bulky yarn, and that is if it's really bulky and you don't want a bulky edge, you can tuck it maybe every other row. I don't like doing that in worsted and down. I want to tuck it every row, and actually I often do it even in bulky and up weights that are heavier than bulky because I'm more comfortable with secured edges and I am willing to put up with slightly increased bulk. but you could choose to carry your strand from, say, this row and then not lock it till that row. But in general, we're gonna want to twist our yarn so that the color we're working with goes over the top, and that is important. And I will show you in just a moment why, but twist our yarn so the color we're working with goes over the top and then knit the next stitch. So I'm gonna cut the video and show you why it's important. So let's talk about some things we wanna watch out for. We definitely want to make sure that the color we're working with, the strand we're working with, goes over the top of the strand we're carrying up the edge. If we do it the other way, what's going to happen is that this strand is now going to be directed down. It's going to add some bulk to our work here. And I was just talking about bulk and trying to avoid it. And so just now I chose to do it the wrong way. I don't actually believe there's any wrong way to knit, but I chose to do it the way that I advise against. I am putting the blue strand over the top of the red strand and I'm knitting. And let me get back over here and do it one more time, and then we'll take a look at that edge. Okay, so I'm gonna do it one more time. I am going to take the blue strand and I am going to put it over the top of the red strand. This is the way that I advise against. I always advise to have the strand I'm working with go over the top of the strand I'm carrying. You can already see how it is slightly more, whoops, let me come back on the screen. You can see how it's peeking out a little bit more here. Come back. Knitting that next stitch here. Whoop. Okay. And I had to give it a good tug to try and hide it. Do you see it trying to peek through there? That is part of what I don't like about this method. It's forcing it to the front. Let me do another row and we'll take another look and see what happens as we go farther. Here we are, one more time, taking that blue strand over the top of the red strand. I advise against that. I advise red strand over blue strand because I am carrying the blue strand. So the strand I am working with should go over the strand I'm carrying. And here is why. I've been working these short rows, partially because I have so little of my red left, and partially because I just want to show you quick. So let me get back to the other side here and we'll take a real good look at this. My swatch is going to be kind of funky looking, but that's okay. Okay. Drop that. So this is definitely more visible. You'll see if I were to do another one over the top of the red, it's going to really, really show here. It's going to be hard to tuck in. Don't lose my stitch. So that is the reason why I advise for the strand that I'm working with to go over the top. And I'm literally thinking by top, I'm thinking like this is closer to the sky. I'm holding my work parallel to the ground and I'm going closer to the sky over the top of the strand I am carrying. If I'm holding it upright, so this is towards my body here, then the strand I am working with is going to be closer to my body when I do the twist. The strand I am carrying is going to be away from my body when I do the twist. So from my perspective here, this appears somewhat twisted. From your perspective, you can see that the strand I'm working with is closer to my body on this thumb side, closer to the sky, closer to the camera here. So that's a pretty important thing. The other thing is, let's say it was time to work with this blue here. I have to be really careful not to cinch that down, because if I just come to work with my blue, I could make this very tight. So I do have another video and another blog post about that. I will at least put information in the caption about that, and I will try and link it in the video if I can figure it out. And yeah, yay. So in general, quick summary, we can avoid having to sew in all of these ends by carrying the strand we are not working with up the side of our work. That is best done by wrapping the yarn we are working with around the yarn we are carrying so that the working yarn is either closer to our body or closer to the sky, depending on how we're holding our project. And we can do it on the first stitch. It's easier that way for a lot of people. It may show a little more, and that doesn't matter if you're going to put an edge on it. Or we can do it one stitch in. Doing it one stitch in tucks it to the back just a little farther, like this here. Doing it along the edge will be right on the edge, like this here. So, and then of course, as I mentioned, we could also alternate skip rows and block it every couple of rows if we're concerned for bulk. So, ta-da! I hope that's helpful. I hope that saves you some ends. And I guess if I want to be a real YouTuber, I'll be like this video and subscribe. But in general, if this was helpful, let me know. If there's something else I can help you know more about, let me know. Thank you.